It is really good.
Person man, get on the head with a frying pan. It's a knife in a garbage can. Person man, is he depressed or is he a mess? Does he feel totally worthless? Who came up with person man? Degraded man, person man.
So yeah, as you can see, I'm dressed as my homemade variation of the Ben Reilly costume from the comics. And the reason I did that is because I'm reviewing Into the Spider-Verse, the new Spider-Man movie that I had my worries about, but oh my god. Most people thought it was going to be good heading up to release, but this movie is so amazing, spectacular, ultimate, what else am I forgetting? Every other title you can associate with the character. It's barely even about Peter Parker. Although the one in this movie is like jaded and cynical, and he's really funny because he's played by Jake Johnson, who I really liked on New Girl. Okay, I'm rambling too much. Let's begin. So this is an animated Spider-Man movie about Miles Morales, who's an interpretation of the character I've really liked in the past. And I had my worries because this movie was marketed as a Spider-Verse movie with Miles Morales as the main character. And I thought all these other spider people running around would kind of overshadow him, but the first act of the movie really proved me wrong. The movie really does take its time setting up Miles and his supporting cast and who he is as a character, and it firmly establishes that this is his story. Through an accident involving the Kingpin using this big interdimensional device to conjure up a portal for his own reasons, the motivation for the villain in the movie is he's not the most developed, but they give him some backstory at least, which is more than could be said for some other villains from other superhero movies, Justice League, Venom, what? Okay, so through this portal, all the other spider people show up, and Miles meets each one of them, and they all kind of give him the tips he needs in order to become Spider-Man. The most prominent people involve that jaded, cynical Peter Parker, who's kind of an extension of the Tobey Maguire version, in that everything in his life kept going wrong. He kept making bad decisions, and that's a key part of the Spider-Man identity, messing up. The other most prominent one would be Gwen Stacy, or Spider-Gwen. She gets a lot of development, and I'm really glad she's getting her own spin-off movie because she's really good here. In fact, Miles and Gwen are so good in this movie that it wouldn't surprise me at all if their prominence here and their importance in this movie leads to them eventually being introduced into the MCU. I would really like that. But yeah, that animation though, right? It's freaking incredible. It's probably one of the best animated, just the animation. Probably one of the best I've ever seen. It is so good. The way the colors move and the way the characters are animated and move, they have like the comic book style like drawing marks on their face. There's like text bubble pops when the action gets really intense. And the big third act battle is so imaginative and wild. I could just sit there in awe at what I was seeing. I've seen this movie once now. I plan on seeing it again, and I plan on seeing it many more times just for the animation, let alone the heartfelt story and the character work and all the little Easter egg stuff that I missed the first time, and a really good after credits scene that made me laugh, and it also sets up more future movies because this movie really does start a franchise. I mean, Sony's been in a position where they've had the rights to a Spider-Man character, and they've been like, how can we make a franchise out of this one part of the MCU that we have? They made that Venom movie, and this movie is infinitely better than Venom. So is Aquaman to an extent, but I'll talk about Aquaman after. No, it's really, truly great, though, what they've done here. But the Spider-Verse idea is a really good idea for a franchise. In fact, like I said before, they plan on making a whole movie just about Gwen, and I can't wait for that. Though out of all the spider people in this movie, my favorite is probably Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir. Every line he said made me laugh so much. I hope we see more of him. And it's a really funny movie too. I laughed very much during it, not just from all the cute little references, but some very well-crafted jokes. And it also was really emotional. On 3 separate occasions, I considered tearing up. One part I actually just shed like a little single tear. And It's because the writing in this movie, the dialogue is so much better than I expected. This isn't your normal superhero writing. This is genuine. These are people in this movie. I think I can go as far as to say that this is probably the best Spider-Man movie. I'm always going to hold those Tobey Maguire movies close to my heart, but this movie was made by people who truly love the character. You know, when they were making Homecoming, they made a list of things that had been in every Spider-Man movie before, like the villain killing themselves, swing through Manhattan, Uncle Ben, all that stuff, him being in college, and they decided we're not going to do any of that stuff. Our version of Spider-Man is going to be completely different. And that's what they did for Homecoming, and that worked okay for that movie. But what this movie does, it takes everything from the previous movies and adds some of its own stuff, because it's a movie that truly cares about Spider-Man, and that's what's really good about it. So yeah, 10 out of 10. Really, it's that good. This is probably, I'm tempted to say, the best movie I've seen all year if I gave it that score, mostly just because of a surprise villain cameo that I was not expecting at all. It wasn't in the marketing or anything like that. No, it wasn't Scorpion. You'll see when you watch it, and I will have to say, I definitely recommend seeing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is a semi-redundant title, but it's truly a masterpiece of animation, character work, and simple filmmaking.